All right. Hey, hi, we're back. Guess what? We have another segment to talk to you about right now. I feel like I'm a salesperson. Let me tell you about this segment. No, I thought it would be fun to come up with a segment. Well, you remember advice columns, right? We grew up listening to advice
Yes.
columns, seeing advice columns.
Yes.
Dear Abbey was always around.
Mm-hmm.
There was another one, uh, Ann Landers, I think was her name.
Yep.
Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
right? So these advice columns, and they're actually still around. I didn't know this. They're still around in their own original form. Dear Abby is now run by her daughter and has the
Oh,
name and everything,
actually, yeah,
right?
I think I heard. I think I did know that. I think I
Right?
heard it somewhere. Yeah.
But then there are other blogs and such that have their own advice columns. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to revisit some of these ideas and go back in time and read some of these old advice columns and see what the problem was, what the advice was given, and what we think about it today. So
Yes. Let's do
this
it.
is a new segment called Advice Nobody Asked For. For this segment, I went back in time to the Dear Abby archives,
Okay.
and I went back to December of 1991. So we're talking, what, 30? Don't make me
Shut
math.
your mouth.
It's so
Do
hard.
not say the 90s was 30 years ago.
I
It just
know.
makes
Can
me
you
feel
believe
old. I
it
don't. So my
does?
husband. Here's a rule in my house. It's over 20 years. That's it. You cannot say
Yeah,
30, 40. I don't want to hear any of that. You can
got it.
say over 20 years ago.
Over 20 years ago,
Thank you.
almost two times that,
Sure.
in December of 1991, somebody wrote, Dear Abby, with all this talk about condoms, now let's remember this is 1991. So AIDS and HIV are still
Yes.
very much an
Yes. Yes.
issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the time that we grew up learning about sex. So we had
Right.
condoms were everywhere,
Yes. As they
literally,
should be. As they
as they
still should
should
be.
be. And
Yes.
this reader has a problem with it, and you'll see why.
Oh.
Dear Abby, with all this talk about condoms, there's not a word about how to dispose of them safely. Are we assuming that condoms are used only in the privacy of one's own bedroom? Or do we see the real world and know that they are used anywhere and everywhere? No mention is ever made of sanitary disposal. To a casual stroller, it would seem that the accepted disposal is gravity. A walk in the park, and guess what? Your toddler just picked up an interesting little item. Or one cuts through the parking lot and finds evidence of what has been going on, or what has been going on at an earlier time. Like this person, okay. Please, can't we protect others from the very thing the condom user is protecting himself from? As a mother of a toddler, here's where I get confused. As a mother of a toddler 40 years ago,
Wait.
right. So in 1991, she says 40 years ago, her toddler, she was appalled when she found a balloon and was blowing it up. With the enormous increase in demand, condom manufacturers can well afford individual packages that unfold to make a proper receptacle for disposal. I hope this makes your well-read column. Mrs. E.S. in San Diego. To which Dear Abby replied, Dear Mrs. E.S., thank you for an excellent suggestion. I hope the condom manufacturers pick up on it. It would be a public service. That was it. So I have so many questions about this.
Right? I'm made of questions.
Literally
Made of questions.
many questions. Why don't you start, since I just dropped this condom bomb on you? What do you think about this situation?
Okay. Okay.
Right?
Okay. First of all,
Right?
so first of all, I will say I do agree that people are pigs. They can be, right?
Right.
I can tell you as recently, I mean, not 40 years ago, because, 20
20
plus years ago, whatever.
plus.
As recently as 2 weeks ago, I was driving through, we've got a big soccer complex by my house, and I was listening. So I do this sometimes. I was listening to a song, and the song had just started, and I wanted to hear the whole song, and I was so close to home that I just took a little extra drive, like to
Okay.
make it a little longer, so I could listen to the song. Well, I pulled through the soccer complex in this parking lot, and I was kind of just driving slowly through there, and I got a text, and I wasn't hooked up for whatever reason. Anyway, so I pulled over to check the text. And when I pulled over, I was like, what is that? I just saw something, and I opened my door and looked, and it was a used condom on the ground. So I will say,
right.
People with all sorts of things don't use the trash cans that are literally 5 feet from where that was.
True.
So that is, yes, horrifying. But I don't know. Maybe in some areas it's a bigger problem than it is in other places. I think common sense says you throw things in the trash can.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? I don't think you need to reinvent something. First of all, let's be a little practical here. We've all seen a condom. If you haven't seen a condom, go ask your mom.
Yes,
Whatever.
yes.
The packets are what, one by one?
Right.
Roughly.
Yeah.
You're going to stuff a used condom back into that little thing? Or
they're going to have a bucket. It's going to be a little bucket or a box coming out.
I mean, come on. Let's just, you tie a knot, you throw it in the trash, you move on with your life. So I just think this is a whole thing about, I don't know. And she said it happened 40 years ago. The letter was written in 1991. And she said 40 years ago, her toddler
I think she's saying in 1991, she is seeing this increase of used condoms all over the place. Oh, and also she has a story to relate that happened to her 40 years ago.
Well, it was poorly. It was poorly written.
Terrible, and she should go back to school. That's what I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, I still, in this day and age, on Beyonce's internet, I still see people. Even on Beyonce's internet. No, but in real life, even I see people chuck stuff out their window when they're driving.
All the time. Yeah,
all the time. I see, people flick lit cigarettes out of their car window.
Sure.
I've seen people sitting in a parking lot, roll their window down, dump and then roll it up and just sit there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like, we all need to learn to use trash cans and pay attention to what you're doing with your toddler. I've never taken my toddler out.
I mean, look, we're not gonna parent blame, any of this or whatever.
No,
but seriously, come on. Look, here's my 2 cents on the situation. Okay. I understand the public disposal of condoms is gross. I lived in New York City for 16 years. Okay. It is real.
You've seen some shit.
I have seen some shit, and that's my point. I have seen some shit, literally.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just condoms. Your point is it's everything, everywhere. And in New York City, there are condoms, there are diapers, everywhere. There are people who shit. There are people who pee. It's just, so yes, I don't want to see them. Of course I don't. I'm not personally pleased when it is there on the ground. But my concern is, like, you ma'am, took the time to write a letter to a newspaper and put that letter in an envelope and lick it and put a stamp on it and send it to someone because this issue bothered you so much. And that's what I find really fascinating. Like, what happened on her day that made her so upset about these used condoms? Like, I'm envisioning a world where she's living outside of a brothel and condoms are just falling down all around her.
She's living downstairs from a brothel. They're just dropping them off the balcony.
Yes, and she is like, Dear Abbey has got to know about this. Dear Abbey must tell the people about this condom idea I have.
But was Dear Abbey the place to write? I mean, there's phone numbers. I
Dear
know.
Abbey was like, good luck.
Good luck. Maybe Dear Abbey's not the person to write to. Maybe I don't know. There's phone numbers on everything. There's probably a phone number on the condom box that you could have called and said, hey, just FYI, you guys might want to look into this.
To return your used condoms, go here. There is, she actually says, Dear Abbey says it would be a public service. So maybe she did support this idea. But the fact that she couldn't be bothered to write more than one sentence about it says to me.
What do you say?
Crazy lady, leave me alone. Why are you
writing? What do you say? You say like what you and I said. Yes, we've seen this. It's gross. People need to do better. Do better, people.
Yeah. Do better.
Yeah, do better.
Do better capsule thing. So I love it.
Right. And who wouldn't want to watch that?